Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another kind of channel update, random video topic update. It's early December already, December 1st already as I'm recording this, and good Lord, I can't believe how quickly this year has flown by. Like I said, on one hand, it just seems like yesterday was January, and the year has just vanished. And on the other hand, like I hear about things that either came out or happened earlier this year, I'm like, wow, that was this year still? That seemed like ages ago. What is linear time anyway right now these days? I don't even know anymore. Um, but yeah, so a lot to talk about here this time. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so let's jump right into it again. As I usually start these update videos, I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel and my work in general, whether it's been for 10 years or 10 minutes. Much appreciated. And to any new subscribers, um, thanks for stopping by and for the support. You can find everything in the playlists for the channel here. Everything is divided into playlists. I cover a lot of different things on the channel and thinking about a few other things, which I'll get to later in the video. But everything is in playlists. I've got Low Vision Spotlight series where those are mainstream games that I play with my legally blind as a legally blind gamer. The iOS and PC accessible game spotlight videos, and those are either mainstream audio or text-based games that are accessible to blind players. I do VR accessibility, game accessibility, assistive technology, hardware reviews, geeky stuff, a few Let's Plays here and there. And like I said, just take a look at all of the playlists and hopefully you'll find something there that will be helpful or entertaining for you. So, yeah, thank you to everybody. And it's been a while since I've actually looked. And just before recording this video, I did take a peek, and it looks like we have not only hit, but we've surpassed the 3,500 subscribers. So I remember looking quite a long time ago and thinking, I wonder if we'll break 3,500 by the end of the year. And we did. I think, what is it? Last time I looked, we were at 35, 32, I think, right now. So yeah, still pretty small, but you know what? As I always say when I look at that kind of a thing, uh, it's it's more than I thought I would ever do when I started this thing. So hey, you know what? I'm happy with it. We're building our own little community here, and it's been fun. So speaking of recent videos and upcoming videos, I want to touch on a few of those things next. I've covered a lot of different things over the last little while, and a few things I've been meaning to get around to forever. I got my Apple Watch Series 8 review, so you can check that out. If you're interested in an Apple Watch for the holiday season, maybe. They are good. If you've had an older Apple Watch, you pretty much know what to expect. It's just a little bit faster, a little bit better, um, another sensor or two, but you know, it's an Apple Watch. And if you've never used an Apple Watch, they're pretty good. They're pretty solid for a smartwatch. I did my Steam Deck review a while back, so if you're interested in some portable PC gaming, you can check that video out. And it's a great system, you know. It's a Steam, it's a a desktop or Steam computer in Switch handheld style form, and it works great as that. My only real issue is, of course, the lack of accessibility features in said hardware or software, because Valve, no matter how much we're writing to them and whatnot, they're just not adding any accessibility into their Steam desktop app or their SteamOS platform for their Steam Deck. On a related note, though, I did finally got around to covering the Steam Steam iOS app, because about a month or two ago they totally redesigned it and it's it's far from perfectly accessible. Like it's not a smooth experience by any stretch of the imagination, but it's maybe not as bad as you might think it would be. You can use it with voiceover, but I will say you have to be a decent voiceover user. You got to be good at both flicking and explore by touch. Um, but you can do it. I show you like I navigate around the a lot of the main areas of the app, main screens and main tabs of the app, looking for a game, buying a game, um, looking at. You can even if you have Steam installed on your computer, you can actually remotely install a game that you've purchased. You can go to your library, remotely install that game to your PC, and then if you don't want to use the Steam desktop app, you can literally just go to File Explorer, Windows E, and navigate to your Steam folder, find your game folder, and then find your game executable file. So you can launch games outside of the Steam interface if you don't want to use that either. And then if you want, you could just add a keyboard or a desktop shortcut to the game that you're going to play pretty often. So there are ways around it. And like I said, it's not pretty, but it does work. And if you have any interest because the thing is there are quite a few and growing numbers of accessible games on Steam. Not just your Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter fighting games, but like actual blind accessible games. You've got The Veil, you've got um, a Blind Legend, you've got, I mean, quite a few. This 1428 Shadows over Silesia, which I'm going to be having a video coming out for in the next couple of weeks, hopefully here. I started playing that, and it's a really cool game, and it is blind accessible, and they're doing some really neat things with accessibility. Actually, they even have a little bit of audio description via text to speech for their cutscenes and stuff. So they clearly put a lot of thought into not just blind accessibility, but just accessibility in general. But what I will say is, if you want a game that is very deep and challenging, it is definitely a challenging game. I am just a little ways into chapter 2 right now, and I haven't played it much since recording the video, but ooh, the combat is cool, but it's fine if you are fighting like one or two guys at once, but there's this ambush that I ran into at the end of the video, and yeah, you get swarmed by like 8 dudes, and I was just getting my ass kicked. I played it a little bit since then and still didn't do much better. So, yeah, I don't know. The combat system, I don't know that it's super designed for really large group combat. Either that or I just suck. But yeah, you want a deep game. Shadows over Silesia. I will be giving you guys a quick look at that here in the near future. But so yeah, there's a lot of games on Steam that are blind accessible, and that number is growing all the time. There's talk about The Last of Us coming to the PC. That'll probably hit Steam too. So people are going to want to play that. I'm going to want to play that. I will play that again. So there's all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I have a couple of other accessible iOS games that I've covered. So people are always clamoring for more of those. If you missed any of those, check my recent uploads, and you'll see a couple of iOS accessible games that we got going here. And I've got a couple more of those already recorded and in the queue. Again, the accessible games, I like to spread those out a little bit just because there's not near as many of them as there are. Like I could play literally a dozen um, mainstream games, cited games. I could, be releasing dozens of videos a day and never run out. But, the blind accessible games are a little fewer and far between. And again, thank you to Michael for that kind of last minute, right around Thanksgiving. I got a email. It's a game that I would never really have thought of, or I didn't even know about. That Ploppy Pairs video. It's a little matching game for younger gamers, and you know what? That's cool. Like if you're getting used to iOS, or maybe again you got the holidays, you got a younger kid, and you want to introduce them to accessibilities, voiceover, iOS, maybe not a bad way to go. So check those out. I won't spoil the other iOS games that I have coming, but I've got a couple more of those coming. Also, got a couple of maybe another couple hardware reviews coming up in the next short while. Yep. Well, the first one, I I'll just say that I almost made it through Black Friday weekend. I almost made it through, but then damn you Amazon and Microsoft, you just had to put that extra little deal in there. Just push me over the edge. I had a couple people recently asking me about, hey, if because I've been toying with the idea of getting an Xbox One, or not an Xbox One, an Xbox Series console. And I've been asked, hey, are you going to cover that on your channel? If you do, I'm like, yeah, sure, of course I will, if I do. But, I saw the deal on Friday and I just like, it's good, but I'm really thinking about this PC upgrade and I'll talk more about that in a moment too, but it's such a good deal. But then I made myself click away, I made myself turn away. And then Cyber Monday came, and Amazon had this deal where you could get the system for like $239, but then on top of that you got a $40 credit on the Amazon website, so you basically get $40 free to spend on Amazon. So you're getting the system for like under 200 bucks or just around 200 bucks, and you have more money to spend on Amazon. So it's like, okay, fine, you got me, dang it. So yes, I am going to be getting an Xbox Series S. Should be here on Saturday, if all goes as planned, and I'll be hopefully setting up that this weekend. And originally I thought I was going to get like, oh, I got to have the best, I got to get the Series X. And if the deals wouldn't have been as good as they were, I probably would have either waited till the middle of the generation refresh. But I'm like, if I don't have a 4K TV, I don't have a 4K monitor. I really don't care about 4K. I mean, if I happen into one because I buy a new monitor, I buy a new TV, and it just so happens to have that, sure, fine, whatever. But honestly, 1080p is perfectly fine with me. And especially you look at even the PlayStation 5 or you look at the Xbox Series games, a lot of them are offering two different modes or even like a spectrum of options where you still have to choose between performance and fidelity. And yeah, some of the extra bells and whistles are nice, but a lot of, I will take a smooth frame rate and good performance over a couple of extra fancy bells and whistles any day. I mean, yeah, sure, I want my games to look good, and I'm wowed by ray tracing and all the other stuff just like anybody else is, but I've talked how many times about games shipping basically broken that need constant patches just to be even really playable and stable. And then you have like the frame, people are talking about all the Pokemon whatever versions. I'm not interested in Pokemon really, but like they say, oh, it's a good game, but boy, are there some performance issues here. It is just rough. And a lot of games are being like that. So I'm like, between all of those things, and then you also have the consulting work, the advocacy work that I'm doing. I do playtest consulting. Like if there are times where they want you to use a specific platform. So, oh, can you check this out on a PC or a PlayStation or an Xbox? Now I basically have all three of the modern platforms, or as when I upgrade my PC, I will. So now I will have official Xbox hardware that I can play and test and do all that kind of stuff on as well. And then you also have to look at there's things that aren't available on the PC, but with Microsoft doing a really good job of backwards compatibility support, and not only just plain old backwards compatibility, but they're making them run better. So if the game originally, oh, maybe it had kind of a bad frame rate, um, the way they brought them forward, it's going to be using the extra processor power and kind of smoothing some of that stuff out, maybe roughing out some of the graphic-y edges. And there's a lot of Xbox and Xbox 360 games that I would love to kind of go back to again. So I also have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, so I can pick up right where I left off on Halo Infinite before my HP computer decided to shit itself earlier this year. So yeah, I can come back and check all that stuff out. So when I look at it, um, and it's funny because I also just got paid for a recent gig that I did. And that amount just pretty much paid for my Xbox system. So hey, who am I to complain? But there you go. So we're going to have an Xbox Series S review in the near future. The other hardware I'm going to hopefully be covering is the Analog Pocket. I totally forgot I even had this pre-ordered because I had pre-ordered it last year thinking, okay, I'll get it on the pre-order. If I choose not to do it, then I can cancel, whatever. And then it started getting good reviews, but like I said, I totally forgot about it because they were so backed up with the chip shortages and stuff. They're like, a lot of people aren't going to get it until mid 2022, and then it got pushed back even a little bit more. And I looked at my order early this year, and it was like third quarter, fourth quarter, and I totally forgot about it until I got an email yesterday, or not yesterday, but a couple days ago, like, oh, we're processing your order. We haven't shipped it yet. We'll let you know when we do, but yeah, you should be getting it soon. The Analog Pocket is a kind of a Game Boy portable system. Analog has done the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo. I think they've done a Genesis version. Not sure about Atari, but like I know Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, I believe. But they really process they're emulators, but they're not really. They use the official carts, but they're really focused on accurate representation. You can play them over HDMI, if you hook them up to the TV. So by default, the Analog Pocket plays Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games, and then you can get further adapters if you want to buy those, and you can support other portable handhelds as well. And I don't remember, there's at least 3 or 4 of them out already, and I think could be the Game Gear, could be the Lynx, maybe the Neo Geo Pocket. I can't remember which other handhelds they support. But it's really cool. And I have a lot of Game Boy and especially Game Boy Advance games. In the early 2000s, I played a lot of Game Boy Advance on the Game Boy Advance SP and on the Game Boy Player for the GameCube. It was basically a portable Super Nintendo in your pocket. Back then, we didn't have smartphones back then. I'm old, we didn't have smartphones back then, and just being able to play a 16-bit game on the go and also not have crap battery life, but they played well, yeah, that was really cool. So I've got a lot of Game Boy Advance games that I've been kind of itching to play again. I mean, I have my SP, no idea where the charger is for it. But man, I just thinking about being able to play WarioWare Twisted again. Oh, that game was so good. WarioWare Twisted, Metroid Zero Mission. I've been jonesing to play that after I really bounced off of Metroid Dread last year. Was that last year? No, was that this year? Metroid Dread. That might, God dang, man. If that was this year, wow, yeah, time. Wow. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'm like, well, I've gone this far. May as well keep it pre-ordered. So there's a couple hardware things that we're going to be looking at again. And I got the dock with it too, so you can just put it in a dock, pair it with a controller, and then you can hook it up to your TV via HDMI and play them on the TV, just like no Game Boy player and GameCube disc needed to play it because I'm not sure I know where that disc is. um, yeah, looking forward to checking that out. Hopefully in the near future. I will give you guys an update on my PC situation. I know it's just dragging on and on and on. I've been kind of dragging my feet a bit, but originally I was waiting for the 40 series cards to come, graphic cards to come out because I wanted to see what the performance, what the reviews were like for those, what the prices were going to be like for those. And they seem like they're good cards. They're great, they're great cards. And I would be interested in the 4080, but there's a little bit of a problem. Um, we had chip shortages last year, and so everybody was, jacking up their prices, and there were scalpers selling things for, the retail for a 3080 was supposed to be around like $700, maybe a little bit more for some of the, not the reseller card, but the, not the O&M, or not O&M, good Lord, not the OEM cards, but like the other third-party cards were a little more expensive. But no, they didn't hover around those prices. People were selling them for well over $1,000. I've seen them for, 1,000, 1,500, even over 2 grand for a freaking video card. And I think Nvidia looked at that and went, hey, well, if they're willing to pay that much to these scalpers, why don't we get on that madness for the next generation? And we'll just see if they'll do it. Let's jack up the prices by basically double, and see if people are dumb enough to pay them. So your 4080, instead of being 700, maybe $800 for a different edition of the card, you're looking at 1200 minimum. And 1200 is usually like the Founders Edition style cards. But again, any of these other like EVGA or I can't think, Asus, any of these other makers, they're going for 13, 14, $1,500. By that point, you're getting into the 4090 territory. And God, like I don't want to spend that much on a graphics card. I mean, I don't want to really reward Nvidia for I love their cards, but for them just taking advantage of people because they can, um, I kind of have an issue with that. Um, so I was all excited a couple days ago because I'm like, oh, I've got this. Finally, I've been talking to somebody at Micro Center. I've been working with them, and because the place that built my current rig that I'm using right now, apparently they don't make custom builds anymore. All they deal with is like your Dells and HPs and Lenovo's, those OEM brands. And I'm like, no, we're not going that way. I already did that in the last year and it wasn't good. But I'm working with Micro Center. They're going to help me build one more than likely. And overall, it's not too bad. And I finally got everything figured out. I was trying to figure out things for a CPU cooler because the one that they originally recommended had kind of iffy middle of the road reviews. And thanks to a friend of mine and a few other people, I've had a few Twitter conversations. So thank you to everybody who's been responding to those tweets and those discussions we've been having. And I think we've finally figured out a good air cooler for the CPU. And I had everything all figured out. I'm like, well, okay, I've got all this. And then I'm like, hey, can you get me? Because originally I'm like, I wanted to go with the 4080 and the price was just outrageous. I just wanted to see what it would be. And I'm like, okay, can you give me a 3080 card and we'll go with it? Well, they don't have any 3080s in, and Nvidia's not going to sell them anymore. They're not going to get any more in likely because they want to get rid of their stock and, of course, force you to buy their more expensive new model. So the only thing that they really had older in was a 3070 Ti, which is okay. But I was looking into that card, and the problem with that one is that there's the 3070 and the 3070 Ti, and they're again a little bit lower, of course, than the 3080. Um, but performance-wise, it's not like the TI is not right in the middle. It's a little bit lower end, closer to the 4070, which I wouldn't mind. Um, but the main thing that I was like, yeah, I don't know. For longevity's sake, it only had 8 GB of RAM, and so the 4070 has 8 GB of RAM. The 4080, you could get it in a 10 or a 12 gig variant. And I was gonna, like a 12 gig would be fine. That should get me through the next few years quite well. The 4080 has 16 gigs of RAM, and then of course your brutal 4090 has like 24, but 12 would be fine. Because yeah, a 3070 would be great now, but let's say they do a console refresh, like the PS5 Pro, or I don't know, an Xbox Series Z or something here in a year or two. Um, I don't have to be top of the line, but I kind of want to be a little bit mid high end future proof. So, because I don't do a lot of upgrades myself. So that's sort of where I'm looking. So the plan is I've got pretty much all of my systems spec'd out. Um, I did a little bit of research, and apparently they are thinking of. I'm hearing things that they're thinking about launching a 4070, either 4070 or 4070 Ti card, maybe early January. Rumors are about January 7th or so, which is just right around the corner. You blink, it'll be here. And we don't know what the price is going to be. We don't know exactly when it's going to come out. But if it were, and if they were to launch that even around $800, you know what? 800 is way better than 1200. That's still 400. And if I had to go with 1300, 1400, that's still like $400 to $600 saving. So you know what? I would jump on that. And excuse me for a moment, I got to get a quick drink of water because my throat is being a little weird. So I do think I have a general plan for my rig. I've got it mostly spec'd out, and I'm very happy with it. It's going to be a sweet machine. All SSDs and whatnot. Finally got the cooling situation, I think, figured out. Got a nice case coming. And I just really have to figure out the graphics card because the 4080, I want it, but I can't make myself do. And AMD is supposed to be launching their cards this month, and I've been hearing that maybe the sales on these 40 series cards aren't what Nvidia was hoping. Gee, maybe people don't want to be scalped by the manufacturer themselves. So with the AMD competition, just maybe one of two things will happen. Maybe they'll release their 4070 card in January or early next year, or maybe they'll be like, okay, we'll back off. We'll make sure that we try to make our manufacturers back off the 4080 price a little bit. Maybe I can still get that. So that is what I'm looking at potentially for a rig. And like I said, I don't do well. I'm not a PC builder myself. I never really have been. I've got help with friends and from friends and stuff like that. Or I've had them just custom built from a local shop. Like for me, I work with computers and stuff all day. And I don't have the patience, especially these days. I don't have the patience to mess with all this stuff. And oh, you get something wrong, you didn't hook up a wire right, or did you all the little things. To me, it's worth. I will pay a few extra bucks and just say, you know what, you build it, you make sure it works, give it to me. I will plug it in, and I can do all the software stuff. I can, that's fine. I can do all that, but just get it working for me. So that's where we're at with the computer. I know I keep talking about it every update video. Yeah, I'm going to get a new computer soon. But I think I have a better vision of what's going to be happening here. So I'm hoping within the next month or two, I'm hoping we're going to be able to resolve this and get a new rig. Again, that's nothing. I'm not nothing against the one I have. This thing has seen me through hell and back the last 5 years, or actually, it's been about 7 years. So it's doing its time, man, and it's still hanging in there. It's a champ. Um, so that's my computer update. Um, and I think that's largely like current and future planned videos. Well, of course, I'm going to do some, I don't know what structure it's going to take this year, but I'm going to do the end of year wrap up videos, kind of a 2022 wrap up as I have done in the past several years. So, there's been a lot of accessible games. There's been some good events, mainstream games. A lot has come out this year. Um, Different hardware, and I don't know. I just have to go back and think what all happened this year. It's been a busy year, that's for sure. A lot of my consulting work, they've had a lot of fun there, podcasts and other appearances, interviews and stuff like that. I got published in a magazine. I'm still waiting for the print copy of that bad boy to show up. Reload Magazine. Shout out to those guys because they are doing awesome work too. Oh, speaking of magazines and books and such, another thing that I decided to pick up here, and I don't normally do videos like this, but I think I will for this one. As you would well know if you've been following the channel for a while, I am really, really into retro first-person shooters. Old ones, new ones that are, retro first-person shooters, Dusk, Medieval, um, Cultic, all that kind of stuff. There's a book I learned about a week ago. I didn't even know it was a thing until I saw a video about it. It's called I'm Too Young to Die. It is out and you can get it from Bitmap Books. It's about a $40 book. I mean, this is like a hardcover, really nicely done, like coffee table style book. And again, print books usually don't do it for me because I have trouble reading them. I would either need to use, a CCTV, or I would need to OCR it with a scanner or my phone. But when I looked at it, if you buy the physical edition, we will give you a PDF digital copy. And I said, oh, okay. Well, that's ultimately what I want. And again, I'm not asking for everything for free. They clearly put a lot of work into it, and it's something I'm really, really into. So you know what? I bought the book. Um, I should be getting that here in the next few days. I got a shipping notification for it this morning. And I also already downloaded the digital edition to my phone. It's sitting nice in my little games folder in Voice Dream Reader. And I've started reading it, and it's pretty good already. And so, yeah, when I get the physical book, I probably will do just a brief video just showing you. I'm guessing it's going to be just a really, really nice kind of a collectible book. But this I'm Too Young to Die is a look at first-person shooters from around like 1992 until about, I think, 2002-ish. That's where they cut it off. And the reason they did that is because, well, A, there's just so many games to cover, even in that period alone. But that's where they kind of decided to stop is around 2002 because that's where in all throughout the 90s and early 2000s you had so many just rapid things happening, changing. You went from like um, Ken's Labyrinth and Wolfenstein 3D, then you had Doom, you had your Quake, which is full 3D, you had your build engine games like your Duke Nukem, you had um, like I said, you went to Half-Life and you had Counter-Strike, you had Team Fortress, Unreal Tournament, just graphic, and you went from like local to full online play. Just there's so many innovations and just so many. You just seen and then you had console things like GoldenEye, like oh you're not just a fast arena shooter anymore. Valve focused on story. immersive storytelling. GoldenEye not only was not a bad licensed game, but it actually, the different difficulties gave you different mission objectives. So on Agent you had to do only a couple objectives, where a secret agent and double O agent or whatever, you had more things that you had to do. And that was really kind of innovative for the time. And a lot of shooters don't even do that today. So yeah, I'm just really interested in. I was looking through the kind of table of contents on the digital edition. I'm like, wow, there's a few games that I totally forgot about in here, and there's some that I don't even think I've even heard of. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking this book out. I will try to cover it in some form on the channel, but like I said, if you're into that like I am, you can get the digital version if you get the physical edition. So looking forward to covering that too. We've got the Game Awards coming up next week. So that'll be interesting. There's a few awards. There's a little underwhelming this year, where like I would have picked a few different choices for some of these categories. And of course, there's going to be, a big part of the Game Awards is, oh, look at the world premieres. What are we getting next year? We get a new trailer. We get a new whatever announcements. But the one thing that I'm also sort of curious about is the Innovation in Accessibility Award. And thank you to Jeff Keighley and team for inviting me to be a jury panel member, kind of a judge on nominating um, games for this category. So I've done that for the past 3 years when they originally introduced that category to the Game Awards. So very curious to see what's going to win for that. And I won't say what I have a few thoughts on that, and it was a really really tough decision. You can vote like they have the regular jury member votes, but then there's a public vote. You can vote on the GameAwards.com right now, and I'm curious what's going to happen because boy, there's like all of them are well deserving, and it's so hard to just pick one. But um, I'll talk more about that later, and just after we find out what it is, what it actually is. But yeah, the Game Awards. That'll be interesting. So to wrap up on the channel stuff, I do want to run a couple of quick ideas by you because I've actually been asked about this by several different people over the years, and a few times even recently. And I've thought about these things a couple of times myself over the years. Hell, one of them I've actually thought about writing a book about it if I could find time. So I want to run a couple ideas by people and see if A, if they'd be interested, and B, if you can help me think of a name for these two series, because I have two different series ideas. I haven't been streaming as much lately. I haven't streamed at all lately for a couple months. And instead of maybe streaming, I've thought about doing a couple of different types of videos to vary the content on the channel a little bit. My first idea is what I was considering for quite a while, and it's what I was sort of wanting to almost write a book about. I've even kind of I've even written down potential like chapter ideas of like or topic areas to break things down into. So my first idea was kind of a personal historical look at technology and gaming through a legally blind perspective, my perspective. So kind of a part informal history, kind of a part, biography, memoir type of thing. Like, hey, here's my personal journey through technology, games, and accessibility. Um, and the way I originally thought about breaking down the book, and I think it'd also be fun. Just I've really found doing these informal videos and doing the podcast interviews with people, being on panels, doing presentations. Who would have thought? But I actually really enjoy doing this kind of thing. I love babbling, and apparently, many other people, to my surprise, like to hear me babble. So, hey, I mean, people are requesting it. And so what I was thinking was, just doing a video series where I take one topic per video and I just go into one different area of technology or one area either of technology itself or one area of where I was in life at the time. So looking at, hey, what were my first technology experiences? The first time I used a computer, the first time I used a talking computer, the first time I played a gaming console, some of the firsts. You could do all kinds of stuff with that. What was my grade school experience? Because the other way that I'm looking at this is I could tell it partly through my perspective, but then, if you are visually impaired or if you know somebody who is visually impaired, maybe you're raising a visually impaired child, this could be a kind of a thing of, hey, here's what it was like back in my day, but then bringing it forward to today. And, I do this stuff professionally during the day as well through my day job. So, looking at it through that way too, but giving my experiences and like, hey, if you know somebody or you are somebody, you have a kid, and what kind of things should you look at? What kind of things should you consider? What things should you advocate for when somebody's in grade school, when they're in high school, when they're thinking about going to college, when they're thinking about going to work, whether it's while they're in school or after school? Like, there's all kinds of experiences I could talk about, and relating to technology. I could talk about have a video about the early internet, back in when it was dial-up days and you had bulletin boards and dial-up modems and remember the text browser links, Pine for email. People complain about the internet nowadays. Like, oh god, the internet is so hard and it's just whatever. Have you ever tried using text-only internet on a Braille and speak with a 640K buffer? I did, and it was interesting. It was jank, but it worked. I could talk about that kind of stuff. I've got all these old like Windows phones still. Like, remember people like accessible phones before the iPhone? It'd be fun to have a video about that. Um, Again, just covering games, NES, Super Nintendo, 16-bit era days, N64. That was the first console I bought with my own money when I went off to college. Pissed my parents off, but hey, um, all kinds of stories around there. Um, so there's tons of ways I could take it. I have loads of ideas already written down because, like I said, I've kind of thought about structuring a book through this. I could go through kind of the history of like what I remember, how different assistive technologies have progressed. God, going from the early like Apple II Echo synthesizer to what we have, like people complain about robotic voices now. You haven't heard robotic voices until you've heard an Echo. You try to speed the thing up and it goes like a screechy chipmunk. Um, Man, just all kinds of places. The more I talk about it, the more it just sounds more fun to chat and to do a series like this. So let me know if you're interested in that series. And I'm trying to think of a name. I want something that's catchy. I want something that's simple, tech oriented. But like just tech talk, bleh, that just sounds boring. Oh, tech talk, or you know, I'm looking at one idea that I sort of had was, I was trying to think of either technology or gaming terminology that would maybe fit for a title. And I was thinking about memory, like, oh, because I'm thinking back about all these memories that I had growing up. Um, and then I'm like, oh, RAM, random access memories. Cheesy, but it could work. Um, let me know if you have any other ideas, because I always struggle to name things. I lucked out on this whole illegally cited thing, but I've told you about that origin story before, and I can cover it in one of those too. That's the first idea. The second idea, I've thought about a couple other times, and I have actually had people ask me about it legitly several times over the years, and I wasn't sure I wanted to go in this direction on the channel. But in a way, it just could be another playlist, and I've lived a lot of experiences where I think, yeah, maybe it could be a good idea. So let me know if you're into this one. Just like, we talked about all those technology topics a moment ago. There are a lot of channels, blogs, podcasts about different aspects of blindness, vision impairment. What is it like to work with a person who is blind or who is vision impaired? Covering different aspects of life through being visually impaired. And I've kind of always kept this channel technology and gaming focused, whether it's technology, assistive technology, mainstream technology, VR, games, consoles, PC, mobile, whatever. But I think there could be, because there is a huge overlap with the blindness and vision impairment thing, where I think maybe a playlist like this now could be a good time to do it. Um, so I've had people ask, like what is it like in school? What is it like, for work? How do you do these types of things? And these are questions that everybody gets if you're vision impaired. But on top of that, like I said, there's a lot of other people doing this thing, and that's why I originally shied away from it. It's like, well, I can be kind of a tech angle, but there's so many other people out there that are just be like, hey, this is what it's like to be blind. This is how I blah 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 blah. And so I thought, well, I don't need to repeat it what everybody else is saying, but I feel like that I've gotten a big enough following now to where it could make more sense. And like I said, the blindness stuff, the accessible game spotlight videos, the assistive technology videos, the iOS videos, all of those types of things seem to do really well. They do way better than the low vision spotlights. Apparently, there's a lot more people looking for blindy things than they are low visiony things. But I'm still going to do the low vision stuff because that's a large part of what I do. I love them. So we're going to still do both. But outside of tech and gaming, um, I think there could be a room for a playlist just about blindness topics. There are a lot of other people that are doing this. I'm not going to name any names, but there are a few people out there as well that I think are kind of giving the sighted community, people aren't familiar with blindness and low vision. If they see these people's videos, it's like, oh, this is what it's like to be blind. Oh, this is how we should interact with people who have a vision impairment. Oh, um, that's what it's like to be. No, God, no, please, don't take don't take these people's because that is not a real world experience for the vast majority of blind people. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm sure people can read between the lines on some of that, but um, so I want to give a more accurate and there's a lot of focus on blindness. There's a lot of people doing the totally blind thing, which is great. But low vision is kind of its own beast because, blindness, you kind of get the feeling that people can understand blindness. Oh, you can't really see at all, or you have no usable vision to the point where seeing that little bit of light doesn't give you any functional vision. Um, but low vision is such a spectrum that, like, the first question that everybody, I guarantee you, the first question they will ask, what is your vision like? What can you see? And it's so hard to tell because, like, the range that people have, you get some people that are light perception, you get some people that can see shadows or shapes or a little bit of color, but then you got people who can see different levels of, regular, like, detail and complexity. People can read print, people can read large print. Some people have provisional driver's license. Some people have peripheral vision loss or central vision loss, blind spot. I mean, there's so much crazy. There's so many different ways that you could be visually impaired. Um, but my thought was, and like I said, people have asked, um, I could do just like the technology series we just talked about, a series where I cover different topics throughout my life. I've been around for 40 plus years, so I've seen a few things. I've been around here and there. I've certainly had my ups and downs and um, crazy blind low vision experiences and frustrations and made many mistakes over the years, learned from them, figured out definitely what not to do. Um, again, not just through a technology angle, but looking through my education when I was in grade school versus even junior high and high school. What changed? Because I didn't learn a lot of the blindness stuff until junior high. So, yeah, K through 6, especially when you got to third, fourth grade, it got to be a little bit rough. Here's your dome magnifier, have at it. Um, again, if you're looking at people, if you have a blind or visually impaired kid, talking about my experiences back in the day, and now that we have so much more technology and so many more resources and things like, hey, I can go through. This is what you should be advocating for. This is what you should be asking for. These types of things. Uh, Grade school, high school, college. There's a lot of within the transition program where I work. We're concentrating a lot on self advocacy or making sure that people are actually ready for college, not just like college smarts, but like can you get around well enough so that when you go to campus, can you get around on your own? Because no, it's not a reasonable accommodation to have somebody pick you up and walk you to all of your classes. That's just no, that's not the way it should work. Um, can you live on your own? Can you do your own laundry? Can you, like I said, can you get around? Can you cook if you need to? Can you use your technology? Um, can you advocate? Do you know how to advocate for what you need in class? Because you don't have a vision teacher that's behind your back all the time like you did in high school. Um, what is it like when you get out of college and you think you're really prepared? I've got my degree, I feel confident, I know what I'm doing. I apply for loads and loads of jobs, for positions that I know that I could do. And then you spend 3.5+ years getting rejection letters, getting interviews, and still getting rejection letters. How degrading, how humiliating, how demoralizing can it be to um, go through a period like that? You do the work and you still, um, it's still hard to get a job. Like I went through all of this. You're so broke that you are paying your credit card or you're paying your utilities with your credit cards because you have to live alone, so you have transportation to get to an interview should you get one. Um, yeah, I could talk about all kinds of stuff. Um, the I have a whole section on employment. The whole employment process. How do what types of things did I do when I applied for? How did I look for jobs? How did I do resumes? How did I had a bunch of cover letters. You have to treat job search like a full-time job in itself. I could talk about my experiences doing interviews. I've definitely learned some very interesting things through that process. So I think it'd be kind of like it could actually be kind of fun and kind of helpful to just give my experiences that I've had over the years, but also try to help again if you have a kid or if you're a transition age student or if you are an adult trying to get you maybe like, I really haven't been doing much, but maybe I should get back into the workforce. Um, I think a series like that could actually work right now. So let me know if you're interested in either of those. And the one thing, I can't think of a name for these stupid series. Like the tech one, like I said, I had the random access memories, cheesy, but it could work. Let me know if you have a better idea. I almost thought about, God, and it would actually make it would tie into my whole theme, my whole shtick, and I could even name my book that if I ever wrote something. But like for the second idea, maybe just call it, hey, maybe call it Growing Up Illegally Sighted. Got to have that little humorous title in there. Growing Up Illegally Sighted. You know, the more I think about it, I kind of like that one. I might have to, that one I might actually roll with. But let me know if you're interested in either of those two types of playlists because maybe starting in early 2023, maybe I do put Twitch streaming on the back burner for a while. Maybe I'll do a stream here and there, but these two types of things actually sound kind of fun. Maybe I can get a couple friends of mine in on occasion too. You never know if I start one of these. But let me know if you're interested in those two ideas because I've been asked about them a fair few times, and sure, you know what, people want it, and I think I've thought it through enough that I think both ideas have some potential. Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter, whatever. So that is my channel stuff. Again, a lot of stuff to cover for the channel. It has been super busy. It's just been busy in general. The couple of weeks leading up to Thanksgiving were just nuts. My day job was super busy. I still had a couple consulting gigs here and there. And then even after I got back from Thanksgiving, it was like, I thought about doing this video over Thanksgiving week or Thanksgiving weekend, and I thought about doing a stream on Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm just like, no, everyone's going to be with their families or friends or family, and they're going to be enjoying things. You know what? I'm just going to kick back. I need a break too. So that's why I didn't do this video during Thanksgiving week or weekend. So, um, brain fart. I just lost my train of thought. Um, but yeah, so that's what's going on the channel. But it's been super busy. Things are kind of starting to slow down, but they're still fairly busy at work still too. So we'll see what happens. A lot of stuff to look forward to. The hardware reviews, the end of the year wrap up. Um, hopefully get a new PC in the fairly near future. You never know. But there you go. These new series could be kind of fun. Let me know if you're interested in that. A couple of random other odds and ends to wrap up the video. We have the new Super Mario Brothers trailer. We had two of those now so far, and the movie, I gotta say, is actually looking pretty good. I mean, yeah, it's going to be more geared toward kids, a family movie, and I didn't expect anything less from Nintendo. The art style is really good. I really enjoy that. Um, Everybody's super down on the whole Chris Pratt as Mario thing. I don't hate it. Like, could it be maybe a little bit better? Yeah, sure. But I like a lot of the other characters, like Bowser. Jack Black as Bowser is actually pretty great. Um, Luigi's pretty good. Princess seems pretty good. The Toads, they typically have their high pitch voices that are kind of obnoxious, but even they're not too bad for what they are. And like I said, I don't hate Chris Pratt as Mario. Like, it'll be fine. I'll just live with it. Whatever. He's fine. But I'm looking forward to it. It's coming out in April, and I will absolutely be checking this out, whether it's in theaters or if I just check it out when it's streaming. I'm sure I will add it. I'm sure I'm going to pick it up and add it to my gaming movie collection. So I'll give thoughts on that when it comes out. We got a new Indiana Jones trailer, which that was really interesting. Like I said, I already talked about the first-person shooter book. There was one or two other things that came out that was I can't think of right now. But So we've got that. I do want to briefly touch on the whole Twitter thing again. I know I talked about this last update video, but you know, things have kind of calmed down a little bit since then. Late October we had Elon Musk and his new regime take over Twitter, and it was just absolute madness, chaos. Uh, since he's taken over, like within the first 3 weeks, he axed most of his employees and gutted the engineering and accessibility and like security and content, just you name it, he probably gutted it. I can't even go through all the shenanigans. There are plenty of other tech podcasts that can do that, but the whole shtick was that everybody's all, it's the end of the world, and it's the end of Twitter. Screw it, I'm leaving. Oh, they might let Trump back in. I'm leaving. And to be fair, I can respect that. I totally get it, because you don't want to support a company that is just run by a dingnut. Um, I get it. My kind of philosophy is I'm just ignoring the drama. I mean, you can let all the weirdos back in, you can let Trump back in, whatever. But I just block. Like, I think even before, like, I blocked certain phrases and words, and like I blocked Trump, so I don't even hear about any of that crap. Um, and as I said in the last update video, Twitter is just it is. I'm not a big social media person. Anyone I know will tell you that. Twitter is the one thing that really broke through, and that is the one social network that I use, because it works exactly the way I want it to. Um, I like that it is a decentralized system. I can follow you. You don't have to follow me if you want to, but you can. You can follow me. I don't have to follow you, but I can. We can direct message each other. We can search for any old thing. We can search for a random topic, a hashtag, an event, a person, a brand, a product, a topic, and it's all out there. The problem that I have with things like Mastodon and Discord, and like, yeah, I use Discord. I use it a decent amount, or even Slack or something like that. But like, the problem that I have is they're all siloed, they're all instanced. So like, oh, I have to be in the accessible gaming category, or I have to be in the VR room, or I have to be in the random topic room, or I have to be, whatever. I have to, like, everything is siloed. And what I like about Twitter is it's just like this whole town square open mentality where, yeah, you're going to get some idiots coming in. Um, that's what the block and mute buttons are for. Um, as long as the accessibility and the platform actually still works, as long as it still runs, and as long as it's accessible, I can still use it. I'm not going anywhere. Because like I said, all of those reasons, it's the way I use it. Like, for my day job, I professionally follow assistive technology companies, mainstream technology companies, other professionals in the field. Outside my day job, of course, the other content creators, game companies, other advocates, other consultants, individual developers or companies, like I said, even people within companies. And it's where I've gotten a lot of, like, I wouldn't be doing all this game accessibility consulting stuff near as much if it weren't for Twitter. Um, the amount of like podcast interviews and consults and just paid gigs, free gigs, presentation, like any of this stuff. Some of it's come through email, but a lot of it has come through Twitter. Um, it didn't work out, but again, surprise of surprises. I actually had a girlfriend for a while, and that was also um, due to the channel and due to Twitter. So, I mean, no, Twitter's been just a huge core part of my life the last several years. So, I'm not going anywhere, and as long as it works, as long as there are people to follow and the content still comes in that I'm kind of looking for, yeah, I'm going to stick around. Um, but yeah, I did look at for a short time. Was it last weekend? There's this buzz around Hive. No pun intended. That was accidental. But Hive, it's probably one of the closest things I've seen to Twitter, but it is very new. I think it's been around for a little while, but it's still really new. But it just like caught fire for a short time last weekend. It's only run by a couple of people, and they actually shut down the service now for a couple of days because there's been so much hammering at it, and they need to figure out some security and um, some growing pains with like security and other things. I forget what they all shut it down for, but I briefly took a peek at it just to see, and yeah, it does look a lot. It seems sort of like Twitter, and it could be okay. It is not voiceover accessible very well at all. You can guess your way through some things, but I would not call it great right now. I know they said that they were working on accessibility, but again, there's such a small team. Like, I don't know if they're going to implode under their own weight, or if they'll make it through. And, it depends on how many people actually do leave Twitter. Are they going to get enough engineers back to uh, keep the ship above water? Um, because God, if something breaks, do they have after all the people that he's fired, or the people that have even quit, um, do they have the people to figure out what's going on and fix it? Um, the European government and even the U.S. government, they're taking a look at Twitter, going, "Hey, Mr. Elon, you better back off a little bit. Like, you can't just fire people. There are laws on how you have to do this, and privacy, security." The whole authentication, or the whole are you who you say you are? I mean, the Mario flipping the bird thing, when he introduced briefly that paid verification thing, that was actually pretty funny. The big old thing have you seen everywhere? They had somebody make a fake account, Nintendo account, where Mario was flipping the bird. That was pretty great. But I mean, that has harmful, that was a joke, but like, let's say you pretend to be Pfizer or something, and you try to do harmful misinformation about vaccines or something. Um, that can go horribly wrong. So like, there was a reason that the old Twitter had these verification things, and that's what it was supposed to be. But we'll just see what happens. But like I said, am I happy about some of the things that are happening? God, no, absolutely not. But for now, like I said, it's for me, it's still working pretty much as it always has. Like, I follow this, my people that I follow. I get my feed. I DM people again with this whole computer upgrade thing. Like, I've had a few really good conversations. I've reached out with a couple questions, and people have come through. They've really helped me out a lot. So you know who you are. I can't remember all of. I think BSG was one of them. I can't remember, like, but like I said, you know who you are, and it was helpful. So yeah, I'm gonna keep using Twitter because it is super valuable to me. And finally, to wrap up, I want to end on a positive note. Again, since I didn't do this over Thanksgiving weekend, I figure we'll just touch on, with the holiday season, it's also just a good time to think back and reflect and, be thankful. Um, it's so easy to complain. It's so easy to focus on, you got your mainstream news shoveling all this doom and gloom down your throat. You had the elections last month and all the drama with that and leading up to that. And, you've got wars, you've got COVID, you've got flu season coming around, you've got shootings, and like I said, just shit everywhere. So, sometimes it's hard to, like, you just hear this constant stream of crap and negativity all the time. But really, we do, like, I do like to stop and think about, like, hey, you know what? I do have a lot to be thankful for. It's so, and even like, technology, it's so easy to be like, God, why does this voiceover feature doesn't work right, or this is broken? Why didn't they fix this? Why didn't they do blah 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 blah? There's any number of complaints. I mean, yeah, I complain sometimes. Hell, I complain publicly on Twitter sometimes. I just did a post earlier today where I was like, "Hey, Audible, why did you take away this nice little link where I can just instantly see the entire like I can if I'm in a book I'm looking at a book on their app or their site, and I can click the name of the series, and I can see all the books in that series. That was really, really helpful, especially when I discovered a new series. But for some reason, I noticed it went away. Why did they do that? They should really bring that back. But it's just stupid little stuff like that. And like in the grand scheme of things, though, like I said, I'm super like I think about it a little bit more. The older I get, I've got a great place to live. I've got um, great family, friends. Not the healthiest person in the world, but I have my health. I've got a great, not only do I have a great job, I have a full-time job. I have a job that I like um, for my core day job. And as someone who is blind or visually impaired, because I know how hard it is to get a job as a blind person or a visually impaired person with a disability. Um, all these consulting opportunities and just accessibility opportunities that I've had. I'm having a blast with all this stuff. Just all the things that you have access to with your computer or a phone, like the thing in the palm of your hand. You've got a handheld magnifier. You've got access to pretty much any bit of information you could ever want on the internet. You can get any book, movie, music, podcast, media, almost anything under the sun these days. You just almost instantly have access to it. Um, you know, all things that can help you live a better and more independent life if you're blind or visually impaired. I can easily live on my own. I can, pay my bills and check my bank account and have groceries delivered, shop online. I can scan and read paper documents with a quick thing on my phone. If you're totally blind, you can identify products or money or color or, light level, any of those types of things. You can get sighted assistance with things like Be My Eyes or Ira. I mean, like I said, this was I was thinking about this again because we were having this discussion during one of our meetings at work this morning, and somehow it kind of got onto this whole blindness topic. And thinking about that other series again, it's like, oh, we were talking about like, is adjustment to blindness training good? Because as part of our organization, every new employee has to go through some adjustment to blindness training. And I can see the merits in it. And if you do it for long enough, I think it can be good. Like the way we do it, I don't think it's too bad because they get about 6, 7 weeks of it, so they at least they have quite a little bit longer of an immersion to try to learn things correctly. But if you're doing, like, oh, we're going to do an afternoon under the sleep shades, and we're going to show people what it's like to be blind. In some ways, that can be more harmful than good. There's some controversy behind that thought. And that could be another topic that we could talk about for that second series idea that I talked about. So I'm not going to go into it anymore here, but how I got sidetracked to that again. But I was just talking about like, what? Oh yeah, that's what it was. Is in the meeting this morning, someone else had said, and I've been thinking and saying this for years. Even when I do assessments with people, I'm like, technology can't solve everything, but it really, really helps. And because of all that kind of stuff, it's never been a better time to be a person with a disability or to be someone who's blind or visually impaired. Not just technology wise, but like, like the person said, they're like, 100 years ago, we were left to rot in horrible asylums. And if we can actually get a job, now we can get a job. In theory, we can get a job and we can have the same pay as everybody else. and we can be an integrated member of society. We're not just shoved off in the dark corner and that anymore. Um, so it's never been a better time to be a person with a disability. Yes, there are still frustrations. Yes, things could be a lot better in some areas for sure. But we're getting there. And if you stop and look at it, we do have a lot to be thankful for. So with that, keep that thought in mind as I wrap up the video here. We'll wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know again if either of those two other playlist series ideas would be something you might be into. Because the more I think about it, I think they could work. So gonna wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally cited, illegallycited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.